80s, the government pumped billions into South Florida to stop the stream of drugs into this country. It worked to a point. While the flow to Florida was blocked, the stream simply changed course. The smugglers found a new route. In a special two-part report, Bob McEwen takes us to the new smuggler's paradise, to a place where drug running flourishes, often with powerful help. Where is this? It may be Eden to drug dealers, but you and I know it simply as Texas.
Early morning in South Texas.
Arrest team, we're about 2 blocks from the residence.
Agents of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, are on their way to work.
Policía.
They're arresting a couple of drug dealers.
Hold that guy.
These are the individuals that we started buying from.
Yeah, that's the one.
Purchasing smaller quantities of heroin.
Policía.
Small fry in a 7-month investigation leading towards a much bigger catch.
Okay.
Just another day at an office grown larger and more frantic in the past few years.
This is Miami 10 years ago.
Fred Ball heads the DEA office in McAllen, Texas.
This is now, I'm convinced, one of the major transit points in the United States is through the Rio Grande Valley.
More drugs enter the U.S. along this 115-mile stretch of the Rio Grande River than anywhere else. Half the cocaine and half the marijuana come across the border with Mexico here.
The U.S. Border Patrol in this part of Texas has confiscated $1 billion worth of drugs in the past 5 years alone. That doesn't count what's been seized by other law enforcement agencies. But everyone agrees that's just a fraction of what comes through here.
Marijuana.
We're in the midst of the harvest season right now.
Trash compacted bundles of marijuana.
We're just absolutely inundated with marijuana here. And unfortunately, we've seen a real shifting of trends up to heroin.
And Mexico is becoming a major supplier of heroin for the U.S.?
Yeah, it's becoming again a major supplier. I can tell you they are back in the business and they're back in it big time.
Which brings us back to the pair arrested earlier.
Have you ever been arrested?
Their deal led DEA agents to the Mexican border.
That's her.
And a woman named Marianne.
She's here, she's in the truck.
Marianne has already sold 2 pounds of heroin to undercover agents, $80,000 worth.
We're northbound out of the area.
She gave them another 2 pounds on credit.
Gonna make a left turn to go to the hotel.
And she's promised to deliver a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's ought to be them right there.
They could arrest her right here, but the DEA is convinced she has connections.
Okay, they're on the ground headed towards the stairwell.
They're hoping she'll lead them even deeper to her source of supply.
Never looked at us.
An informant brings her to this hotel to meet with a DEA agent posing as a dealer.
This one's unique because we have a woman that we're dealing with from Guadalajara, Mexico, who's an attorney.
Outside in the parking lot, Fred Ball listens in.
You just don't see Hispanic females that involved in the heroin trade. It's not part of the culture. They've agreed upon now, it appears, is $2,900 an ounce. She's talking about 20 kilos, which would be about 44 pounds. Total purchase price wholesale would be somewhere in the vicinity of about $2,100,000, give or take. We got an eyeball here. They're out on the balcony just walking, all three. What we're going to do is later this afternoon is take her over to the hotel that she doesn't know about, show her the $2,300,000 that we've got in town.
Okay, all 3 of them are down.
And hopefully she can go back to Guadalajara and convince her people that the end, as far as the U.S. is concerned, is together, and we're ready to do this thing up here.
The cash to be used in this transaction, the $2.3 million, is just for show, borrowed from a local bank. But there's a tremendous amount of money in the drug business here, and more of it than ever before. It's no coincidence this deal is taking place in southern Texas.
We're very convenient. We are right here. There is no place that you can go anywhere in the United States that you can be any closer to sources of supply.
9 years ago, there were just 50 pounds of cocaine seized in the entire state of Texas. Now, the amounts are measured in tons.
There is an awful lot of money that moves through the border here and moves through this area of the border.
Most of that money stays underground, but some of it surfaces. There's new construction everywhere. In McAllen, the beginning of a skyline. This JCPenney store does more business per square foot than any JCPenney in the world. As you'll see, even in the poorest areas along the Rio Grande, there's a new hidden wealth. Area boosters say the influx of money is due to trade with Mexico. But Mexico has always been here.
A female are out walking towards the main door.
Drugs and prosperity have just recently arrived. It is the second meeting of the day with Marianne.
She knows she's coming over to meet with the undercover agent. At this point, she doesn't know he has the money. This is going to be a surprise flash to her.
Well, we got her in the right chair.
This time, Fred Ball is just a few feet away in the room next door.
We got one with a headset on, listening to all the conversations. He's the one that's responsible for alerting us if this turns into a ripoff or whatever. And the other agents, several of whom speak Spanish, and they'll know if things are starting to go bad, if we got a problem brewing.
So you with the money or in the back door?
Okay, here comes the money. We may have just scared her to death. I think it's just dawned on her this is for real and these people are serious about what they're doing. I don't know if the money did that to her or what, but there's been a change in her demeanor in the last few minutes. It's like it all came together and she knew right then. It was no longer conversation. It's a real thing that could happen.
They're coming out the front door now.
The person who's really been making the case for the DEA is the man alongside Marianne, the confidential informant. He's been to Mexico with her several times and has met the man who he says runs the heroin lab, her uncle.
She trusts me, and there's nothing right now that would stop her from dealing with me.
Now pulling out, going southbound in the parking lot.
DEA informants are freelancers who develop cases and then are paid a large commission in dollars when drugs are seized. The pay can be good, but there's not much job security.
If they knew who you are and what you're doing, what would they do to you?
They would just kill me and bury me up there. She won't do anything to me right now, but if she would find out what I'm doing, I mean, there's no telling what they could do.
Okay, she's in the car. She got in front of the car.
It is 1 month after their last meeting, and Marianne still has not delivered the 20 kilos of heroin.
I really want this thing to happen.
She is in the middle.
We've got a lot of time and effort and manpower and money in this case. They're here. And obviously you want to see that come to fruition.
But right now, the hold the DEA has on Marianne is the 2 pounds of heroin she gave them on credit.
I think not paying her keeps her on a leash. She's got to come back to us.
But this time, when Marianne comes back, there's a problem.
Unfortunately, there's more things thrown into these games than you can imagine.
That. DEA! DEA! And the story of the most difficult place in the country for the DEA to operate when we return.
Welcome back to Street Stories. I'm Ed Bradley. In the first part of his special report, Bob McEwen took us to the new hotspot for drug dealers, a smuggler's paradise in Texas near the Mexican border, where the DEA is trying to stop the flow of drugs. Now we're about to see why the flow is so steady and how the culture and the community support it. We pick up with a sting operation set to snare a woman named Marianne, whose tangled dealings with the DEA start to unravel.
It is the 13th meeting with Marianne.
She's looking right at that camera, ain't she?
The longest and most difficult. 2 days earlier, she phoned to say she had the heroin and was ready to deal. But when she gets there, all she'll talk about is the $80,000 they owe her for the heroin she's already given them.
I just think it's a real impasse right now.
And Fred Ball has begun to wonder if she'll ever deliver the big load she's promised.
So basically what this meeting accomplished was that she knows she's not getting the money unless there's another deal, and you know you're not getting more heroin from her unless there's money.
Yeah, if it accomplished one thing, it confirmed my suspicions is she's a 2-pound heroin dealer, and we're not going to do anything but 2-pound deals with her. Main motivation here is to try to disrupt a heroin organization. At least dismantle as best we can an organization that's smuggling heroin into the U.S.
In this case, that means trying to lure Marianne's uncle, the suspected owner of the heroin lab, across the border. The DEA expects that may take a while.
Police!
In the meantime, they'll have plenty of work to do.
Open the door, please. Police officers.
The most frequently used drug route in the country runs through South Texas.
Anybody else in here?
And for the reasons why, you need look no farther than the busiest place of all. Just 40 miles west of the hotel room where the DEA is meeting with Marianne, Starr County.
I was right on the eastern limits of Starr County right now.
Starr County is a smuggler's paradise. Wide open, desolate, lots of potential landing strips alongside the river.
I'm flying in a Super Cub. I can land in any of this stuff, as long as it's flat.
Jim King is a pilot for the Border Patrol.
They can bring stuff down through here. They can hide boats back on the Mexican side over here, and they can have it within minutes. And look where the road is there off your left, less than a quarter of a mile away. What's nice about all this stuff is that you get across, you get up to the road, you get picked up, and you can do it in less than 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, which is a short jaunt down one of these little roads, and you're gone.
Smuggling is ingrained into the culture. In fact, there was a time when smuggling was considered a respectable occupation in this area.
Dr. Richard Griffin of Ferris State University is a native Texan who studied the drug culture of Starr County.
This is no border to them. This is just a geological impediment in the way. They had been transferring goods and services, cattle, went on up to Prohibition and tequila. They call them the crop still, just like if they were transporting tomatoes or just like they were transporting lettuce.
Poor people gotta eat too, so sometimes they just gotta do drastic things. You know, some people steal, other people smuggle or sell dope to make their money.
Michael is a driver for the drug dealers here. His job is to take the drugs from Starr County north to San Antonio, the most dangerous part of the smuggler's journey. He asked us not to identify him because he was afraid it would cost him his life.
Looking on either side of this road, there's a lot of country. I presume it's private property.
Yeah, it is.
Is there ever the occasion where somebody says, take so-and-so's road all the way across, it's okay?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And tell me how that works.
You know somebody, one of the buddies you went to school with or grew up with has a ranch in the key location. You tell them, hey, you want to make a little bit of extra cash? This is a way. Do you want to do it?
You'll make your gate open, essentially.
Yeah. Or let me borrow your keys, right? And you just plead ignorance to the matter.
If you had to take an educated guess as to what percentage of the people in Starr County are, in one way or other, directly involved in the drug business, what would you guess me?
Directly involved, I'd say at least 40%.
40%?
Yeah. And everybody kind of turns a blind eye to it. It's just something that's accepted because it's always done.
To what extent do you believe that drugs, trafficking, smuggling, are at the heart of the economy of Starr County?
It's my gut feeling, somewhat intuitive and somewhat from just being in this business for over 20 years, that it drives the economy down there.
Officially, Starr is the poorest county in the nation. It's basically agricultural, with a per capita income of just $4,500. But oddly, bank deposits here exceed income by a wide margin. Department store parking lots are always full. You see $30,000 customized pickup trucks everywhere. A recent survey revealed that 34 of the most expensive homes in the county belong to drug dealers, and that doesn't include property seized for having allegedly been bought with drug profits or used to run drug operations. This ballroom, seized by the marshals, is owned by, of all people, a county constable. Public corruption has been making headlines in Starr County.
I would guess about 40% of the people, they're involved with the law. They're involved with the drugs.
The informant working for the DEA on Marianne's case has spent a lot of time in Starr County.
Have you seen bad cops in Starr County?
Yes, I've seen them, and people say, I mean, by talking to the people, say, well, I got an uncle that works for the county, and he's going to help us. He's involved in it.
We have to live in fear here in Starr County. And I don't want to live like that anymore.
Efrain Carrera has lived in Starr County all his life.
Do people here trust the law to protect them?
God, no way. I wouldn't ever want to place my life in their hands, never.
Carrera has tried to make a difference. He recently ran for justice of the peace and lost to a man named Ivo Perez.
Ivo Perez is now in prison. This is a guy who was supported by a major part of the commissioner's court, also for possession of drugs.
And Perez is not the only county official in trouble.
There's the constable, Honorio Garza, who was also indicted, who's pending on his trial. And we've got Juan Mills, our ex-county clerk now, who recently pled guilty to possession of drugs with intent to distribute.
After being found with 100 pounds of marijuana in his backseat.
Exactly.
We asked Sheriff Gene Falcone if he'd speak with us about law enforcement in his county. He declined. So did Eloy Garza, the most powerful county commissioner.
There is a definite problem with drugs, and I won't tell you that there isn't.
Heriberto Silva is the Starr County District Attorney.
You see people here buying ranches, building houses that you don't know where their income comes from. But just like it is in any other state of the nation, you have to abide by laws. I can't go and knock on everybody's door and ask them, are you in the drug traffic? And you can't do that in any other state of the nation. I don't see why you expect it here.
Now what you're asking about is, why don't we rise up and run the bums out of here?
Father Roy Snipes is the pastor of Our Lady of Refuge Church.
We're not that type of culture. We're kind of a laid-back Southern type culture. We don't go around organizing big purges, you know, and there's a grace to that. There's a graciousness to that. It's easier to celebrate what's good. It's hard for us to face what is evil and
Father Roy preaches the anti-drug message often.
This is dangerous. This could destroy us.
Some say too often.
Effort to oppose this. Drug dealers have told people who work with me in the church, you know, he wouldn't have so much trouble paying his bills if he'd quit picking on us. That is, if he would toady to us a little bit, he wouldn't find paying that light bill every month was such a problem, or buying a van for the kids would be no problem for him. And of course I've said, well, hell, I'd just rather be broke. I mean, we'll just put STP in the old van and keep going.
Do you have any sense of how many drug smuggling organizations are based in Starr County?
Oh, I can give you a sense. We've targeted over 20 that we're going to go after.
In this county, that's a lot easier said than done.
DEA! DEA!
The DEA just got a tip that this warehouse is being used to store marijuana.
Hey, Jim.
All they find is tires.
It is extremely hard for us to work in Starr County.
The DEA used to have an office here, but they closed it.
We bring in 6 guys in cars trying to run a surveillance. And when everyone in that neighborhood knows every single car that lives in that neighborhood, you can't last down there more than 30 minutes or an hour.
To what extent do they operate as organized crime as we would consider it?
Well, they are organized crime. Yeah. Very similar. Maybe they learn some lessons from them. They do take care of people, for the most part.
When I work for somebody, it's always understood. I get popped, I keep a mouth shut, you hire me a good attorney and pay for it. And if I have to go away and do time, I expect while I'm in there for you to go and give money to my wife and kids.
If Michael gets caught anywhere, it will be here, northeast of Starr County, 60 miles from the river.
How you doing? United States citizen? This your truck, sir?
Traffic is funneled to these Border Patrol checkpoints.
Can I get a look in the trunk, please?
On the main roads going north.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
This one at Falfurrias had more drug seizures last year than any checkpoint in the nation. Most of those are at night, when the smugglers apparently feel safer.
Marijuana.
You're now under arrest for possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
Within 15 minutes of this 800-pound load,
You can see there's 2 layers of marijuana there.
Came another. This truck had 1,400 pounds of marijuana.
Literally hundreds and thousands of trucks come through here. On a good night, you can count 100 every hour and a half, and some nights it's even heavier than that. So I'm wondering how much is past us, how much is getting through us.
Sammy Stewart is the chief of this border checkpoint.
It's my personal opinion that we're probably not getting 5%, maybe 3%. Since we got this, you saw how many trucks. It might have been 400 trucks came by here since we got these 2 seizures. And we're not able to check them.
One other thing. When it rains, the Border Patrol must cease operations at the checkpoints. Too many lawsuits because of traffic accidents. This December, at the height of the marijuana harvest season, it rained for 2 weeks. It's a sure bet the smugglers kept working.
All out of the car. They're all walking toward the hotel now.
Which brings us back to this woman.
Okay, they're on the street in front of the hotel.
It has been over 4 months since the DEA first met with Marianne.
We've got 3 crooks, plus Charlie.
Still no 20 kilos of heroin, but one of those 3 is her uncle.
Our ultimate goal of this investigation was, in fact, to get to the uncle and as close to the laboratory as we could.
All the bad guys are accounted for.
The uncle was lured across the border with a promise of payment for the 2 pounds of heroin Marianne had already given the agents.
That's the end of the case for us.
That unknown looks to be about a 25-year-old Latin male, light blue pants, black shirt, dark wavy hair.
And that's one person the DEA wasn't expecting.
Okay, they're in the hotel.
The third person they've brought along is who?
He is a money collector, and I'm very surprised to see him show up. I thought they had left him behind. He's the one guy I'd be worried about. When you guys go through the door, get on that young guy. If there's anybody that's the badass, it's him. He's been fooling around with his boot like 3 or 4 times. He's reached down, fixed his pant legs. Heads up, guys. It'll be down to the undercover agent to make a decision when to make the arrest.
They wait for the agent's signal. When he looks at his watch, it's time to move in.
209, 201.
We're going. Get the young guys, Duke. Agente Federales.
The DEA hopes to get 12 indictments out of this one operation. Still, only 4 pounds of heroin were taken off the street.
I got it down here.
The drugs in and of themselves aren't that important.
Okay, senora.
Because there's always more drugs. ¿Qué pasa? Unfortunately, there's going to be more drugs. The importance is have we mobilized an organization that was moving significant amounts of heroin.
Who's taking you?
And in fact, we've done that.
You know what the reality of the drug business in this part of the U.S. is, that more comes in here than any place else these days, and it keeps coming, it seems, no matter who you get.
Yeah, that's true. We all have a sense that we're doing a heck of a job here.
¿No tiene pasaporte?
But sometimes there's a little frustration. It's the finger in the dike thing. We're trying to stop it. We're doing the best we can, but it's a tough job.
Tonight, Marianne and the other 2 suspects are being held without bail and are waiting to stand trial.